right? Or based on the transaction query we are using, right? We actually get we have to decide on the output, whether it's the reader or not. Right? So today we'll see the next one, which is let's see if we try to delete some record, right, or insert some record, or update some record, then obviously we'll have to, you know, get, uh, you know, get used to the execute non-query, which will give you how many rows affect or. So let's see one of them. So let me create a new class here. And let me amend some. So here let me create a main method, or rather let me copy this main method which we have used. This main over here. Now in this program, so we have to include system.data.SQL client. So here everything will be same. So what we are going to do is we actually want to see the different type of output which we have to get. So let me just remove this. So mainly creating your connection, creating your command, everything will be same, right? So here, let's see how we can actually get into different details of, you know, inserting data. First, let's see. Let me create a new query here where I can see the table. So let me do some search start from students, right? Where I have two records here. So let's try to create an insert query. We have insert into students table values. So let's give 3, which is roll number, and then student name here. Let me just say here, and then address. Let's say it's which means 24. Phone number here. Back add and do some number, and then create date. Let's call date, which will give us some. Which will take the date, which is system created date. So let's run these two at a time. Now you can see one more record got added, which is third record. Now let's use this over here and see what happens. Right. So let me give it as 4, right, and let's take it as something wrong. Right. So we have a different type of query which we have seen from yesterday, where I'm actually using another query called insert into query, and let's see what it. I'm going to return, right? So here in our command, now we'll be using something called execute non-query, right? So execute non-query will actually give us how many rows affected. So you can see it's an int, and int will give you a number of rows affected. So here, let me take that int as the result, right? And let's print that. Right? So this will actually give us complete the result of how many rows were affected. Let's see this, and then we'll actually exercise this program to make it dynamic. So let's run this. So there is so this is an open brace. here you can see connection successful and row affected one, which means one more one more row would have added here. Let's run this. I can see for and so on and so forth added. So where you can see that's the reason why it actually says how many rows are affected now. Now for insert, as many you add, right, it will actually give those many ones. Same way, if it is uh, if it is a delete or update, right? Maybe we may get more details to update. Let's say more than one. Let's use some delete statement, and I'll actually show you how to get a rows affected, which will give us more than one. Okay. Right. So before that, let's see how to make it more dynamic. Now, whatever way we are actually using here, right? Same way, whenever we start ASP.NET or MVC or rather any web application, right? So whenever you want to connect anything, we have to pass some values through a UI, right? Now that we'll actually get into when we actually start our actual UI part. But here, you can actually use the same thing. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to randomize these things, right? Random in the sense my program will actually provide some data, right, to insert rather hard coding. So which is like let's say string. Let me just get data as console.read. So before that, let me just say console.write and details. So here what we'll do, we'll actually enter the details as per the values we are going to do. Right. Now here we'll do one more operation, like let's say we'll ask the user to enter details using space. Right? Space themselves will actually give like 4 space and the name of the user and space and all, right? But here what we are going to do, we are going to actually allocate those data parts and then run the query, so that we can also see how string operations work. So here you will be getting something which will be getting all the details in one single line of string, let's say, right? And you have to distribute them. And how can I distribute? That's why I said space. Because I have a delimiter here and I can actually split the string, right? So like you have a get data dot split, right, where you can pass your space, right? If you remember, this is how we used to split the data, and you can see split here will again give you a string array. Let me just take it as details. Okay. Now here you can see I got a string where I actually split the complete string into multiple details. And I know that whatever data we are actually entering, so we'll first give the roll number and then name and then address and then phone number. Same way, let's allocate or distribute it here. How can I do that? Here I'm actually making query direct. So here I know that in details the first index or the first string after splitting data will be roll number, right? And then I have a name. So so this is something where I'm actually adding multiple strings dynamically. So I have details of, so my name will be in second position, which is my index 1. And then let's say address. I hope you remember how to append 2 strings, right? I can append 2 strings. This is one string, this is one string. I can append using plus and plus. Now inside this again, anyways, I'm providing some more detail, which means I'm appending one more. This is my so details 2 is my address, and then my in details 3 position, I have fine. Now this is how we created something where we are actually giving it a. Now here, before doing this, let's see what exactly is there in whether we have as expected we have all the details or not, right? Let's print them first. So here, let's say I have console.write line details provided, and I'm going to print each and everything. And then console.write presenter to execute. Fine. So what we are doing is we are just taking a string from user where we will provide data based on spaces, right? Based on the same query, like we provide roll number, name, address, and phone number. And we don't need the date time because we already have a internal command get date. Now you can see few things, whatever I don't need, right? I am actually keeping it as is, right? So this is how we normally build a query, static query. It's a static query, but we're building it dynamically. Now here I'm actually printing each and every item, whatever is provided, it will split and it will actually show, okay, these are the details. Press enter to execute, and whenever I press enter, it executed. So let's run this program. Now here you can see enter details using space, right? So first one I want to give roll number. So let's run this first, and you can see roll number we have to do is latest one is 4, right? So let's give 5 space. Now let's give the name, give something, let's say Ben space, and then you have address, let me just give NY45. Here you may get an issue and want to give some space, that's fine, right? Send phone number, as you see. Now you can see the details provided. Now you have all the details, right? We provided few things in the space, and we actually splitted everything using space, and we got all the details. And it says press enter to execute, right? Enter it. Now you can see rows affected. Now go back and then you can see we provided 5 web, right? So this is how we can actually make our query dynamic, but you can see that everything whatever we are providing now here from console, you are providing in some way some pattern where you like to provide, right? But from if once you go to ASP.NET, right, we can actually make it as a form and show all the details in a grid, right? Whatever details we're adding, we'll actually do that, getting details and showing on a grid in a very good fashion. Now this is how we actually do add things dynamically and execute the query and get rows affected. And this is how we get number of rows affected by using execute non-query. Okay. So let's check the next one. Now obviously, yeah, I mean that's what. If you give it as a space, right, then it will our pattern will not work. Our pattern will not actually work. But yes, if you want to get rid of that, we have one thing. You can do one thing. What we can do is, let's say, enter details using, let's say I'm going to use some something called dollar, right? Enter using dollar delimiter, right? If something is not working, obviously, see, main point here is that to actually make it make a delimiter out where I can actually provide some details, right? So if you want to provide something using your delimiter, or you want to provide some details where some spaces are there, then don't take delimiter space as a delimiter. Now I've actually taken something else, right? So let me just show you. I'll also give some space. Now here you can see I'm asking for details with a delimiter space. Delimiter as a dollar, right? Now let me give, what's the latest one? It's 5. So let me give 6, and dollar is my delimiter, right? And then actually my delimiter is space dollar space. If you can see my program, you can see it's space dollar space. So the combination of space dollar space is my delimiter. Now in the same way, I'm actually providing my data over here. 6 space dollar space, and then I have to give name. Let me give it a stand. Space dollar space is my delimiter. Again, I want the address. Right now, let me give space. Right? I have many spaces. That's fine. And then I have phone number. Dollar space. So number. Now you can see you got things in 6. You got it perfectly, and then you have Dan, and you have MICT. Okay. You got things in a good way or a bad way. One second. Close executable one, but I've entered some garbage. Here you can see. We'll try to delete this. Now let's come back to the program. Let me just take as dollar directly, and what I'm going to do here is details. Now I'm using Sumo here so that I can actually get rid of spaces if I have it. Right. And print every item by trimming it. Let's run this again. Let me just say it has 7 space dollar. Next is a name and then some address with space, and then you have like a dollar, and then you have some phone number and enter. Right now you can see I gave things using dollar delimiter. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually taking specific dollar delimiter. Now you can see where it will actually split using my dollar. Now when I split using dollar, it will give me 7 Dan, and again it will split here dollar Dan and UIU. With you can see everything we got UIU and 67, and then you have a dollar, and then so now if you enter it, right, now we actually got it done. Let's go back and run this. Now you can see the 7th one we were able to even increase this. Right. So this is how we can make things dynamic. Even if you want some format, yes, you can always change. But anyways, in real time, you actually will be using a user interface, right? So there, you don't have to worry on that because you'll be providing things directly from your text box or into from some area. Right? So this is our data which we provided, and we want to use. Now, in delete statement also, right? Let's say you want to delete something, right? uh, where your roll numbers are 6 and 7, which means I'm going to delete two different numbers, right? Yeah, you can do that if you want here itself. Let me just show you that. Let me write a query first. Delete uh, have, I want to take 6 and 7, right? Let's take only 6 and 7, and we'll not delete from here console or from the editor. Rather, we'll first we'll actually see this from .NET itself, so that we will see how many number of rows are affected, right? So let's take it as directly delete, right? And let me write a condition as where roll number in, let me take it as 6, 7. Now this query will actually delete all the rows from students whose roll number exists in 6 and 7, which means whatever is 6 and 7 will be deleted. Now let me copy this query. So this is my query which I have. Now anyways, after I actually enter it, now let me just go ahead and see something like, please enter to, let me call this delete. Now let's not touch this. Let me comment it out. After that you can actually uncomment this. So now I'm going to write a SQL command again. SQL command simply command of, I have a delete statement and my condition. What is the connection name here? Comment. Right. So this is my command. Now what I'm going to do here is cmd dot execute non-query. Now this will return me a result, right? And let's print this, which is how many rows it actually deleted. Right. Now we'll see how many rows it actually deleted, and whenever we provide trigger, it will go and delete this thing. And after closing, just let me just say console dot line database closed successfully. We're just confirming whether database connection is closed or not. Now let's run this program. Now you can see please enter to delete. Enter. Now you can see rows affected 2, which means 2 rows got deleted. Now let's go back and select. You can see 6 and 7 got deleted, and that's how it actually will give us 2 rows. And enter again. Now you can see database connection closed. It opened, connection with server successful, and again we are actually closing with database connection closed. Perfect program. Now this is how we use execute non-query to actually get output, which is of a number of rows affected. And now let's go ahead with the next one, which is execute scalar. Now if you remember, execute scalar is something. Let me copy the same here and let me comment. Now execute scalar, right, will actually give you, whenever your query, right, is returning something, actual value, right, which is a singleton or a scalar value, right, then you can actually use execute scalar. Now let's say my intention is like, let's say you want to get number of rows, count of star, let's say, right, from students. Now this will give you how many rows do you have, right? You can see here that it will actually give you, this is scalar value, a singleton value or a single cell will be returned from your query. That is what we are doing. right? So these type of queries you can actually handle using execute scalar. We can't use execute non-query, but yes, you can use your reader also. You can use your reader, but execute non-query, it will not actually give you the actual result. So let's run this and see how scalar will work. Now let me copy this query and try to get scalar value. Fine. So this one, let's take it as where I'll be using execute scalars. Right. Okay. Anyways, execute scalar may give anything, right? I'm taking it as integer, right? But execute scalar here, I can actually get anything over here, right? Because let's say I want something called top one student. Let me just run this. It's a student name, right? Let's say I'm getting student name, right? Now you can see I know that I'm getting only one scalar value, which will be one cell, but I'm getting it as a name, which is Sam, which obviously will give you a different scalar entity. That's the reason why our execute scalar will actually return, maybe my bad here, it returns the object. So in case of count, I said whenever you execute, it will return you a value of integer, but it actually gives us an object value where we'll have to typecast it to the value whatever we want. Right? Now here, let me typecast it in. Now let's see here what happens. Whenever you typecast, which means again you're actually doing some uh, explicit typecasting here from an object to integer value. So now let me just. We'll also see how whenever we are getting this data, right, the next data of getting some name, right, we'll also see that one. Let me run this. So here you can see rows affected 5. Anyways, the data here rows affected is not correct statement, but you can see count we got a 5, right? Because our count of star of students is 5. Remember, our actual number of rows in student table is 5, right? So this is the value we are getting 5, and we got the result as 5. Fine. That is how we get. So here let me just call it as scalar value, right? Same way, let me take this object now, right, which is let's say I want this time top student, top one student from my database, right? And now I can't use this, right? Rather I can take string like name is equal to cmd dot execute scalar. I can still use execute scalar, but I have to make it to string because I have to convert my object to scalar. So let me take it as value in 5 so that I can print that, right? Now if I run this, now you can see enter to get scalar value. You can see I'm getting this. Database connection closed and then closed. Right? Now this is how we can get different outputs, as we have seen all the execution operations where we have got different things like getting executed, not query or scalar. Now this output patterns or output entities are same for a direct static query writing or a stored procedure. Right? It is same for both. Now, so whenever you write any string, any query as a string in our .NET, right? Then what happens whenever you try to execute that query? What happens is this complete query is being, it will be sent through network through the command we are using, and then it will actually execute at database end and then get the result. Now we can see that the query whatever we wrote is a very simple query, so there are not much of characters we have, so it will actually it can it can use lower bandwidth to actually send this all the characters to database and get the result. But think of in real time, right? You'll be writing a query which will be of hundreds of lines, right? Then if you try to write a static query, then you can think of how many bunch of characters will be you will have to push through stream through command and then get the data, right? Which means obviously there is a network latency based on your number of as a query increases to multiple lines. Now that is the reason why we have something called a stored procedure. In database, you can write your SPs, which is procs or stored procedures, where you will be writing everything, all the query, whatever you want at a database level itself. And whenever you write a stored procedure, it will be in a precompiled state. What is the precompiled state is, now whenever you write a query and send it through a command, let's say this is my static query, I write, and whenever it goes back to query, it will first compile this query, which means compiling is nothing but it will actually check all the syntax errors. Let me show you that. So here let's say I gave some wrong column name, right? Now if I run this, you can see it actually throws some error, invalid column name, right? Which means before executing it on database, right, it will actually check whether all the objects, all the attributes of objects are there or not, are there any syntax error and everything, and then it will give you an output. That is the thing with your compilation. Now in our database, right, whenever you write SP or a stored procedure, right, your all the complete query, whatever you write in stored procedure will be in a precompiled state, which means you are a step ahead from writing a static query. So from .NET we'll be just calling a stored procedure, and maybe we obviously in real time we'll call a SP from .NET, and we normally provide as many parameters as we have to provide to SP to get the output. Fine. So today we'll write a simple stored procedure, and we'll try to call it from from our .NET code, and we'll see how it works. So let's try doing that. So first let's create a simple it's very easy to create server. Now all your SPs, you can see in your database, right? In each database you have different entities here, objects as such. You have tables, views, synonyms, right? And so many things, right? You have programmability, and you have something called security for this. So in programmability, again, you have so many things like functions, triggers, types, and you have SPs, right? Now this is a place where we normally, all the SPs get created. But to get a simple, structure, you can see you'll actually get a simple structured SP, right? So let me make it more simple. Let's not get confused. So let me just remove everything. Right. So select to create browser, and let me call it as SP underscore get students. Student details is my student's name, and here let's start from students. Right. This is my simple stored browser. Now obviously you even don't have to give this because it's a default set which you will get when you write, right? So to be more simple, this is a simple stored browser where I'm actually writing to select something from students, right? First let us run this, execute. Now this stored browser is there in my college database. Now how to run that SP? Now In order to run SP, we normally use exec, right? Where I can use my store preserve. Where you can see whenever I do this, I can see that everything, all the data, whatever I have, because in this store preserve I'm actually using set star from students, a simple set analysis. Where you can see I'll get the complete data set. Fine. So let's run this, and we'll go ahead with one more step to creating parameters. So let me call it as store props details here, and let me copy this main method. Everything is same, but even your reading pattern or everything is same, but something is different. Let's talk about that. System.data.sql, and you have. Now you can see that all your connections, everything are same, right? Now let me make it as static. So let me remove the static void here. Now, so here we have a connection, everything same, right? But here we have few things which are different. Now closing, and let me just copy even the closing part here. The closing of a SP, the closing of a connection, everything is same. But here, main change is in your command. The execution part of the command is something which completely changed. Will change. Now we will not be using any of this queries and all. So rather, what we'll be doing is we'll actually use only SP, which is, or we'll actually use only store wizard to call SP, which is already there in database, which is in pre-compiled state, and get the data. Now, how to call that? Again, your command will give you an easy way to call an SP. So in your here command, right, text, whatever you're doing, you can give your SP name. SP name is sp.getFullDetails, and I want to execute this row wizard over my connection where I'm specifying my database. Fine. Now, even before doing actually calling all this, right, we have to provide the type of command you are giving. Normally, if you don't give anything, it will be a simple text type. You can see it's a simple text type. But if you are giving SP, always mention that whatever you are actually providing here in a query space is not a plain static query, but it's a type of store preserve, which means your command will now think that whatever you write here is a store preserve name in the database, right? And now in this store preserve, what I'm doing, I'm actually writing a select query, which means again go back to the execute model which we have used. Either we have to use execute reader, non-query, or scalar. It again depends on what your store preserve is returning. Now here, my SP returns the complete data set, which means multiple rows and columns is written, right? Now that's the reason why I can directly use something called execute reader, which will give me a SQL data reader, right? And now I can, once I get it, now I can actually read through the data using it. Now this is how we normally call a store procedure from uh, .NET, and always try to create SPs, store procedures, rather creating static queries, right, from .NET. Now let me, we also need to provide some query strings, right? Also, I know that you won't always want to get a direct set, but you may have to provide some where conditions, some parameters. Now we'll also see that part. First, let us run this and see whether we are getting all the data set we are required. Right? Database connection successful, and let's see what happens here. Let me put a user point. Let me run this. So we have a connection open, and we have a command, and we got it. And we got a reader, and I know, oh, okay. Now here you can see what has happened. We were using this whenever our program was returning student name and roll number. Student name is nothing but your string and then roll number, right? But you can see here what we are trying to do. We are trying to read data which is of integer type into a string. Now this will actually give you an error. That's why it failed. So here let me make it more clear. Okay. Right, I'm just reading a name and a roll number, right? To read. Now let me remove this debug point and run this. Right, now we have the name and their roll number. Enter database connection close successfully, and then that's it. So this is how we normally create data. We retrieve data from database using students. Now, moving a step ahead, let's say I want to get details of a student whose roll number is something which I provide. Right? So in that case, yes, you can actually have your own parameter. You can write your parameters in your SP, right? Where you can actually provide. Let's say I want to provide a roll number. You can give roll number and of type int, right? Now this is how any time, right? If you want to do or change your SP, always you can create SP once, but if you want to alter the SP, always use alter procedure, right? So and so, right? So that you can actually alter and you can use this. So let's say I'm gonna use where roll number. Now what I have one parameter where I'm actually providing that to the student's query, and I want only the student details whose roll number is on. So let's run this. You can say execute command successful. Now here, let's test that. Right? Now let's say I want to get student 4 details. Execute. Now you can see. Now in from editor itself, you can actually provide parameters after mentioning the name of SP. After execute, right? You can have a space and parameters. And that's how you can do. Now, even if you have multiple parameters, as you can give here as roll number in, right? Let's say comma. If you have something else called so you also want to give some name, which is let's say varchar of what is name is 50, right? Let's say I'm gonna take some 50 again, right? Now then yes, this is also is a correct. So when I run this, and now when I try to run this one, right, now you can see name is not supplied. No, whatsoever details you want, you have to provide everything as such. Now let me just get the students 4 and run this, right? Let's Q 4 and I can see this. If any mismatch happens, then obviously student name. Okay, because I haven't used the student name, right? Let me use student name is equal to let me and execute this procedure. Go back here. Let's say RAM, yes, it matched. Let me choose some mismatch. I won't give any errors. Right? That's how it's gonna work. Right? So let me take this SP here. Now, how can I provide these parameters from here? I can't actually write execute so and so, right? Because I have already made it as SP. Now here, the catch here is to provide parameters to my command so that it will actually give input to store this as an attribute info. Right? How can I do that? So let me I can see here all your sources will be created under here this piece. Right? Whatever sources SP get details you have, you can even if you close it, right, don't worry, you always have this. Right click on this and click on modify, it will get a stored result, whatever you want. Right? Now let's get back here and let's see how to provide parameters. So in CMD you have a property called parameters. So here you can actually provide parameters. As add, you can see you can provide multiple parameters at a time, right? You can have many things. So let's use add with value. Now, add with value is something where you have to specify which parameter you are giving. Let's say I'm going to specify roll number and give 4. Right? So this is my value I'm giving. There is an error to parameter name is this, and then which is correct. Okay, it's not single quote, it's double quote. Single quotes is only in for strings. Single quote is in stroke, not in .NET. In .NET, you have to provide your string as a double quotes. My mistake. So, right? Again, you have a cmd dot parameter dot add value with. Let's say I want the next one, which is @name, right? Which is my name. So here are the. Right? Now these are my parameters. So these are parameters which are I want to provide to my store processor, and whenever it actually gets executed, it will give me the required data. Let's run this. Now you can see RAM and 4 I'm actually getting, right? Based on my where conditions specifically, I'm getting the specific. Right? So this is how we can actually execute a stored procedure using our .NET SQL command libraries, right? So these patterns, right, whatever we have seen now, these patterns are same across any number of now your static, right, your static query, whatever you're actually getting static query, right, everything it is same. The output whatever you're getting is same across here. Right? There is nothing like different rocket science we have. Everything is same as such. But now let's get into one more, one step ahead of a complex query. Now let's say you want to get multiple data sets. What is multiple data set here? Multiple data set is nothing but, let's say here, let me run all these queries at a time. Now you can see I'm actually getting 3 different tables here, right? You see, the first query when I executed was select start from students, I got all the student details. The next one I executed is top 1 student, I got it, and I executed count, I got it. Now here, I know we have different sets. Sometimes in your real time you may have to execute a query and get multiple data sets. Now this is nothing but a multiple data sets. Okay. Now how can I do that here using a query when I want to run it from .NET? Yes, you can do that. You can use, let's say I want to get my students also, so you can have a semicolon and a query. Let's run this and let me put this here. You can see here when I try to execute my store query, right, I'm actually getting 2 different data sets. The main key here is semicolon. If you provide in multiple queries with semicolon, right? So what it will do, it will actually create a data set, and again it's data set, and it goes, right? And it will actually give you multiple data sets to read. Now how can I read these things with the same program I have? Now here you can see, even now if you run this, right, see what happens. I'm actually using same SQ. You can see I'm actually getting only one data set, which is my first data set. Now how can I get the second? Now this is where we have some catch here. Your data reader is capable of storing multiple data sets at a time. When I say multiple data sets, which means it have got one property called result set or next result, right? So this next result will actually move to a step ahead. Now, anyways, we have to see this SQL reader, right? Once we are done with this commands and all. So the command one is that is something we have seen already connection, and that is about the command where we have seen executing many type of static queries, many type of dynamically making a static query, population, and NSP and all, right? Now let's look into the actual data sets which we have, right? Which is like whenever we get a data, how differently we can do. Now we have seen one thing which is SQL data reader where you can actually loop on and get the data. But here we are actually checking out the multiple data sets handling using one data reader, right? So one data reader, whenever you start reading, right, what happens? It will pick the first data reader and complete the reading. If you want to go to the next set, you have to say next result, and you can actually read it again. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm reading that set again. But here what happens is first it will read the first set, and whenever it's the next result, automatically it will go to the next pointer, and then this is the active set it have. Now it will read that set. Now here always remember that SQL data reader is a read-only data reader. Once you read one row, you can't go back to the previous row. It is only just read only and forward only. Forward only in the sense you can actually read next rows. You won't be able to read the previous rows. It's only one step forward, not a backward. It is both in both directions. It will be in both directions. It will be in a one set different rows or different sets itself. Right? Now let's see. Let me just print this to get details. Let me just say like console dot right, press enter to get next set. I'm saying right. Next set in the sense the next result set. Right. So here let me just say console dot read. Right. I can write multiple statements in here, or right now whenever I enter, now it will go to the next set. I'm reading the next set. So let me run this. So here I got a first set, and if I enter it, now you can see you got a second set. Now this is how we can actually read multi-sets, right? It can be stored within, or it can be a static query too. Static query, right? Where if you remember in our first class we wrote this query, right? Even here you can actually write a static query using the semicolon here, right? And just say select start, right? Now both are same. Even if you write your static query here, or it can be SP, doesn't matter. The result set which it is returning is will have a multiple sets based on how many queries you are executing. Okay? So this is a multi-set which you can actually get it. So this is about your stored or SQL data reader which we have, which is a read-only and forward-only one where it can read data in multiple data sets, and each data set we can actually retrieve into granular level of reading row sets. Okay. So this is about your SQL data reader and SQL command which you have executing ADO.